When the impacts of Hurricane Helene made their way right here in the Midlands, so many families were left wondering how could they get their hands on access to vital recovery services. Right now, Hope Warren with the South Carolina Office of Resilience is joining us. Thank you so much, because folks need to be educated. We're talking about 1 year, nearly 1 year out, right? And we're still seeing folks that need help. So how are you all stepping up to make that possible?
Sure. So the South Carolina Office of Resilience is a state agency. We're really focused on planning and coordinating statewide resilience, disaster recovery, and hazard mitigation to really focus on that long-term recovery from Helene. So, there's that immediate response, that's great, but there are still citizens with a lot of unmet needs. There's citizens who still have needs that weren't covered by FEMA or private insurance. So we're really focused on what we call disaster case management. So we have a team of disaster case managers funded through FEMA who are able to hold the hands of citizens and hear about what those unmet needs still are a year later. So that could be needs related to their homes, maybe there was damage to their car or other goods, maybe there are psychological needs. So really what this team does is connect the citizen with a variety of local resources to help them, as well as conducts intake for our housing recovery programs that we have at SCORE that are funded federally and by state funds. So really just holding the hand of citizens through that process to make sure all their needs are met.
And you were talking about also that now that we're nearly reaching a year, folks are still needing that assistance, and it doesn't always appear to be as forward thinking for people, because they're thinking, oh, we're a year out of there, but no, they still need it.
Yes, for sure. And we're working closely with our volunteer organizations who went in really quickly after the storm to make sure they have resources to be able to address people's needs as well.
Correct. So what is the phone number that you told me you definitely wanted to share?
Yes, so our disaster case management statewide hotline is 803-898-2511. We also have established field offices in Columbia, that's at 2100 Bull Street, as well as offices in other highly impacted areas like Aiken, Spartanburg, as well as central South Carolina up in the upstate.
And then do we call you, we contact you, and then we go through an application process?
Yes, so there's an intake process. Then the disaster case manager will develop a plan with the citizen to address their needs. And then if there are housing needs in particular, we go through a application process where we ask for things like proof of income, proof of ownership, identification, that kind of process.
Okay, let's talk about the areas that are still struggling. Are you able to share the counties that you're still receiving applications from?
Sure, we're really seeing applications from across the impacted region, everywhere from Orangeburg to Aiken to Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson, Oconee, Pickens, really across the board, but especially in those upstate counties that really hadn't experienced a disaster like this before. We're still seeing people just out there searching for resources.
Yeah, what is your message to folks who feel just tired? They're still dealing with the impacts of this, and they're feeling like getting their hands on those resources is just such a process that feels never ending.
Right. It can feel like that. I want them to know that we have really dedicated staff on board. These disaster case managers really hold the hand of citizens throughout the process, and that we won't stop until all of their needs are kind of addressed and we find resources. And they don't have to make the phone calls to 10 different organizations. We can kind of do that for them.
You were telling me too that you all are going to be here for 2 years, correct? That's the timeline.
That's the timeline for the disaster case management grant.
Because my question was for folks who are watching thinking, oh, but what's next? Where are they going? But you're saying there's still time.
There's still time.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insight and giving us this knowledge. I know folks at home who are watching and thinking, okay, now I have a resource that I can turn to. Yeah. We also want to make sure that folks are aware that tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, we're going to be looking back at the devastation and hearing from families still feeling the impact and the neighbors who stepped up when it mattered the most. Hurricane Helene, 1 year later, it is airing right here on News 19 and streaming on WLTX+. Stay with us. More to come on Friends of 5.